Here are your April 2026 pre-order picks presented by Burg Comics, and apologies in advance for all the creator names that I butcher. First up, we have Pimp Killers, issue number 1 from Execution Posse, written by Gazelle Omar and Caden Phoenix, interior art by Alan Heyrula. Got pimp problems? Then L.A. Jones is your woman. She's made a nice little business for herself over the last few, hunting down pimps. Following the murder of a young woman in Reno, she turns her attention to Luciana Lucky Strikes, a low-life pimp hiding out in Hollywood. Lucky is notorious for torturing women who try to flee him, and LA is more than willing to dish out her own brand of justice, making this a match made in vengeance. So this is going to be a pass for me. This is one of 2 books I will mention this month that just seem kind of silly, which is why I'm willing to go with the pass on this particular title. But I suspect I'm not the intended target audience anyway. Next up, we have Jade Warriors, issue number 1 from Keenspot. This is written by David Campiti and Michael Buckley, interior and cover art by Mike Deodato. In an alternate history of Japan, dragons created its islands from which they ruled the world. Warriors defeated them and claimed the islands as their own, but they were petty heroes, and others saw past them to prepare for the dragon's return. Wives and daughters invoked rituals in service to the dragons. Over time, they became powerful weapons. An elite assassins guild, Jade Warriors in service of the Yakuza, enhanced assassins much feared throughout the world. Now as the dragons return, one of the Jade Warriors escapes after discovering terrible truths and fleeing from her life's mission. So this is going to be a pass for me. If you look at the cover of this book, and it told me that it was from Zenescope, I would not have been surprised at all. So it's probably a little bit more about the cheesecake than it is about the story. But if you enjoy Mike Deodato art, then maybe you should pick it up. Mask, issue number 1 from Image. Story by Dan Waters, art by Pi Par and Pierluigi Casolino. The next phase of the Energon universe starts here. The world is becoming a terrifying place. Matt Tracker needs your help saving it. Enter Mask, a network specialist recruited to respond to the next global emergency. At a moment's notice, Tracker and his agents can deploy bleeding-edge technology that converts his vehicles and their drivers into the ultimate weapons. This is also going to be a pass for me. While the story does introduce Mask to the Energon universe, most of the value of the Mask property is going to be found in the earlier DC run of the title, so this is probably just for Mask fans. The Eye Collector, issue 1 from Image, story by Jonathan Ball and GMB Chamachuk, art and cover by GMB Chamachuk. The startling first issue of the strangest series on the stands. An ancient being has its curiosity towards Earth reignited when humans of the Apollo 10 mission make wishes over the moon. What is this spectral creature and what does it want with our world? Seeing is believing. So this is a pick. I'm not used to talking about so many books before I, mention one that I'm going to recommend, but this could turn into a cool horror series in the long run. Plus the art is pretty unique. The preview pages in the catalog are showing this pseudo monochromatic green color palette, which is really interesting. I'm not for sure I would want to see that for, however many pages, 32 pages that this particular title is. But it does provide something a little bit different to look at. M1 Monster Racing League, issue 1 from Image. Robert Wyndham and Lily Wyndham with the story, art by Jay Lee and June Chung. An all-new ongoing series launched from legendary Jay Lee. When 17-year-old Dev moves to Japan, she stumbles into an underground world of illegal street racing where speed is power and mutation wins championships. This high-octane sci-fi drama set in a near-future Tokyo is Fast and the Furious by way of K-pop Demon Hunters. So this is a pause for me. The solicit, of course, mentions fans of Fast and the Furious and K-pop Demon Hunters. I am personally not a fan of either of those properties, so once again, I'm not the intended audience, but I'm not for sure if the audience who this book is intended for will translate over to the comics. So for now, I'm going to have to think about this title just a little bit longer before I make a decision on it. The $1 Trillion Kid, issue 1 of 2 from Image. A story by Jeff Johns and Peter Tomasi, art by Stefano Simon. The Unbelievables Part 1. Among us are the Unbelievables, and Tommy Townsend III, the world's first 13-year-old trillionaire, wants to find them. His world abounds with wonder and spectacle, including a robot bodyguard named Sterling, all trying to make the world a better place. But Tommy learns quickly that money can't buy everything, and propels himself on a journey that sets the stage for this entire new universe. So, of course, with this being a Ghost Machine property, that is something that I have not personally invested myself in. Ghost Machine is, of course, created by Jeff Johns and others, and I have heard that it has some really, really good storytelling, but I've not read any of the books, so I really don't know if I should be in on this series. However, if you are in on Ghost Machine, this is going to be part of a crossover, and this is part 1 of the Unbelievables crossover going through that comic line, so you definitely will need it, again, if you're following Ghost Machine. Junk Punch issue 1 from Mad Cave. This is written by Paul Tobin, artist Carlos Javier Olivares. Sorry for the butchering of the name. In a near future world, peculiar new compulsions have arisen to afflict individuals in bizarre ways, such as a need to paint all pigeons pink or the unfortunate craving to tell the truth on dating apps. One such individual is Clara Castanel, aka Junk Punch, who suffers an addiction to punching people square in their junk. So, yeah, this is that second title I mentioned that makes me go, why? I'm not for sure we need this as a book, and if that's strong enough for a premise, I think it's really just more for like obnoxious, annoying junior high and high school kids. But that's probably more the target audience than myself, but for me, this book is a pass. Land of Never, issue number 1 from Mad Cave. Author Steve Orlando, artist Miguel Mora. 6 months ago, Jim Hoke's daughter Wendy disappeared from her room. All Jim caught was a glimpse of a hulking figure at the window, the kind of late-night vision that's easily written off as a hallucination. No one believes Jim's stories, and 6 months later, the retired pathologist just looking for anyone who'll still listen. And even if he finds someone, should they believe him? Jim already retired early for planting evidence against an alleged killer. His word doesn't mean much, and it means even less with him as a suspect in Wendy's disappearance. He can't leave town, he can't forget what he saw, and he gets any sleep thanks to nightmares. So this is another Peter Pan story, so that makes me assume that Peter Pan has entered into the public domain. Not 100% sure about that. Should have probably done some research before I started recording this. So we have lots of stories about Peter Pan here in the last few months. So I just feel like this is one that is going to get lost in the shuffle. Not the first Peter Pan book, won't be the last Peter Pan book. The Order, issue 1 from Amp Comics. Writers and artists are the Albin brothers. So the empire was built on fear, but fear is a poor cage for a son who still remembers his mother. Braddock and his twin brother were torn from their mother when the founder rose as a tyrant emperor and unleashed reprisals to prove his absolute power. Now, after years of beatings in a distant coal mill far from the memory of home, Braddock must get his friends dirty to find his mother and take his life back. So this is a pass. Honestly, when I glanced at the cover, I thought it was another Sherlock Holmes book. We had Sherlock and Watson in the background. This is Braddock and his twin brother. We do not get a lot of info from the solicit, but there's just not enough there to make me feel like this is something I would want to pick up. Dying Days, issue number 1 of 4 from Red 5 Comics. Writer was Matt Kund. Artist is Bora Orkel. It's the ultimate race against time. When the aging starts, people begin aging at a rapid rate. As civilization starts to collapse, everyone reacts in their own way. Some choose anarchy, some give up, others continue on as normal. But for one scientist, the only option is to find a cure to save her son. Can the cause and solution be found before it's too late? So this is a pick for me. We've got a lot of apocalypse stories, and it seems like most of the apocalypse stories are zombie-type apocalypse stories. So this is something that just feels different enough that it might make an impact on readers, and it's just 4 issues. Now, I'm going to admit that whenever I read the writer, Matt Kund, I saw Matt Kent, and that's what made me stop and actually read through the solicit. It's not Matt Kent, it's Matt Kund, and I'm glad I did because I'm going to be picking up this book just to kind of see how the story goes. Next, we have Foundations, which is a one-shot from Dark Horse. Comic script by Jonathan Hickman and Nick Spencer, illustrated by Mike Del Mundo and Mike Huddleston. Across a distant solar system and countless millennia-long cycles, a war has been fought between the forces of magic and science, and order and chaos, when an astronaut and explorer, Tahoe Valar, undertakes a doomed expedition to a dormant moon full of mysteries. The conflict begins anew and more dangerous than ever. So this is going to be a pick for me primarily because Jonathan Hickman is tied to it. It's also going to be a starting point for a new universe. Now, Hickman has had some false starts on some new universes before, so I'm interested to see if he will stick to it. I do want to read the story for sure. However, this is a magazine size, and I'm just not a fan of the magazine size for comics, so I prefer the traditional size comic. I'm wondering if it is a new universe, if they're going to stick with that format moving forward, a la DSTLRY. And speaking of DSTLRY, we have a Mischief of Magpies issue 1 from DSTLRY. Comic script by Simon Spurrier, illustrated by Matthias Bergara. Mar has a secret. Sometimes without warning he falls out of the world. This would be an inconvenience if his life wasn't already such a drag. Now this is going to be a pass for me. Honestly, I'm just mentioning this book this month because it looks like DSTLRY has switched from Lunar to Penguin Random House. So if your local comic shop does not have a Penguin Random House account and you have been picking up all the DSTLRY books, you may have to track this book down someplace else or put a bug in your ear with your LCS to, get that count set up so that you can continue to get DSTLRY books. But the story itself, again, it's one of those oversized magazines, and I've tried several DSTLRY books, and so far they've not really met my expectations. Dispatched, issue 1 from Ignition Press. Comic script by B. Clay Moore, illustrated by Daniel Geets. All right, MacGyver meets Die Hard in this life or death unboxing. Estranged from his family and living under a government-issued alias, ex-Black Ops agent Morgan Power endures a life in suburban exile as a delivery driver for a major global courier company. It's a 180 from its action-packed classified work abroad until a routine shift puts him in the crosshairs of a domestic terrorist takedown. Trapped in the parking garage of a besieged corporate office park, Power goes back to the basics with nothing but his survival skills and a delivery van full of unopened packages. So, okay, this is going to be a pause for me. You got a little bit of Die Hard, a little bit John Wick, as they mentioned, a little bit of MacGyver. I don't know if that's a combination that people are going to want to read about, so this is another title I'm going to have to think about when I'm placing my order if I actually want to pick this up. But I do like what Ignition Press is doing with a lot of their books and a lot of the creative teams that they've brought together. I think Jeremy Hahn's doing a great job there at Ignition Press. Kingdom of Earth, issue 1 from Dark Horse. Comic script by David Dasmalachian and Leah Kilpatrick, illustrated by Sue Lee. 2036, 2 years ago, hordes of monsters rose from the earth and sea, devouring everything in sight. Much of mankind was massacred before the monsters realized they needed humans. In the new world, humans have two options, service or slaughter. When a young child named Frankie narrowly escapes their fate as livestock, they soon realize that their fight for survival has only just begun. So here we have another post-apocalypse book. This time, instead of being an aging or zombies, it is monsters. The one thing that gives me hope for this book is that, if we have an interesting set of characters in an interesting world, that is a type of story that can lead to a TV property, in this book being optioned for such. Nano, issue 1 of 3 from Dark Horse. Comic script by Alexandra Grant and Matt Kent, illustrated by Natasha Bustos. All right. Sana is a operative of the underground organization The Order. Second time we've heard the term The Order this month. She and her longtime comrade Lucas have been assigned to Nano, a megacity run on prison labor and rolling from blackouts. While Lucas is tasked with infiltrating Nanocorp's secretive research facility, Sana's mission is something she's never trained for, playing the doting wife of Lucas Cover. In her guise as a middle school PE teacher, she's forced to cool her debts and teach 8th graders stretching, while Lucas puts himself in danger. But when the signs are unmistakable and Lucas' mission is clearly going sideways, Sana can no longer sit on the bench. So this is a definite pick. It's hard for me to pick against Matt Kent, especially when he's involved in a new property. And this is from his Flux House imprint. So I am sure that this story is going to deliver. Plus, it's only going to be 3 issues. So I would definitely suggest picking it up, if not for the story, but for the potential collectability. Witness Point, issue 1 of 4 from Red 5 Comics. Comic script by Nathan Fillion and Heath Corson, illustrated by Sue Lee. All right. Welcome to Baraboo, a small Midwestern town in the mountains of Wisconsin, home of the Ringling Brothers Circus headquarters and neighbors that all know and trust each other, until it's revealed that the town has been the dumping ground for every murderer and crook in the witness protection program for the past 40 years. And it doesn't help when the new marshal is found dead. Thankfully, they've sent another marshal. Unfortunately, she tells him she's the only marshal sent to help, and the identity of the dead man becomes another piece of the puzzle as the town descends into chaos. All right, so this is going to be a pick. Clearly, Nathan Fillion is the draw for this book, though I do think the story is kind of interesting. I'm not sure if Nathan Fillion has written anything else comic-wise before, but he obviously has a lot of credibility in geek culture between Firefly and playing Guy Gardner and you know, all the work that he's done in superhero and sundry titles and books and movies and series. Finally, we have Killer Influences, issue 1 from IDW. This is written by Joey Esposito, illustrated by Valeria Burzo. Killer Influences follows Melvin, a serial killer who is aspiring to be one of the most famous or infamous to ever do it. His problem? No one has connected his crimes, except for Kylie, an aspiring true crime influencer. When she comes across Melvin's crimes and reaches out to him, she figures out how she's going to become a star. Kylie and Melvin make a pact that will make their dreams come true and destroy their lives in the process. So this is a pick. I expect that we'll be seeing additional stories involving influencers and podcasts and true crime, you know, throughout the next couple of years as those properties continue to gain traction in the real world. And the fact that this also leans into the whole true crime feel makes it feel like that there's something here that other readers will want to pick up and enjoy. So there you have my picks, passes, and pauses for April of 2026. So be sure and get your orders in with your local comic book shop as soon as possible. Please let me know in the comments what comics you think that I missed, good, bad, where I am off, and where I am on. If you enjoyed listening to me talk about comics, be sure to check out my podcast, Campus Comics Cast, co-hosted by Mike Atchison of Mike's Comic Shop Roadshow. The Campus Comics Cast is available on your favorite podcast app and also on YouTube. And don't forget, like and subscribe. Thanks for listening.